everyone, this is Jaclyn Krymowski with the Herd Book Ag Media, here to give you your Moving Iron Ag News update as we move through the month of January. In our political news this week, I wanted to touch base on the Department of Agriculture's new rules for labeling genetically modified foods, which went into effect just recently at the beginning of the month. Essentially, this is saying that all foods that are bioengineered or contain bioengineered ingredients will need to say so on the label. However, shoppers are going to be able to also find more information by calling a phone number or visiting a website or simply scanning the product label with a QR code. Now, this does not infringe on other labels already in place, such as certified organic and non-GMO project verified. Now, the USDA has said that they aren't planning on actually doing spot checks on all company food labels to make sure this is actually going into effect, but they have stated that they are going to look into any written complaints about non-compliance. Now, there is also a significant exemption within the guidelines, and that they are for highly refined foods. Which is things like corn syrup and other things used in more processed foods, where the bioengineered material is certainly been utilized, but it isn't exactly fully detectable after the processing. Now, we should note that the Center for Food Safety has sued the USDA over this in federal court about the final labeling regulations. So there may be updates on this to come in the near future. Recently, President Joe Biden announced that his administration is going to direct $1 billion specifically towards the meat industry in order to improve competition in what some people would argue is currently a monopoly in our mainstream food system. The White House recently reported that an overwhelming majority of all meat processed, of course, is controlled by the Big Four. And with inflation having jumped up recently, some people are arguing that the current monopoly that we have on our meat processing is partly to blame. The funds for this project are going to be given out through the USDA and overseen by Secretary Tom Vilsack. However, there are some critics, including the North American Meat Institute, saying that they believe this is not going to address labor shortage. This process is also not going to address the Product of USA labeling and the loophole that has been used by corporations that still allows products to be processed overseas or have ingredients made overseas and they're just processed here in the US. And finally, wrapping up our political news is that there is a lot of debate going on regarding Proposition 12. For those of you that don't remember, this is the law that affects pork production within the state of California to meet new animal welfare guidelines. However, this also includes states that want to sell within Florida or within California. However, because this requires so much of an increase in space and other structure changes that would need to be done to comply, the National Pork Producers Council is still fighting this, and they're not sure that some of their producers are going to be able to meet the investment needed to be able to sell within the state of California. Now, it should be noted that Proposition 12 was supposed to go into effect on January 1st. However, the state's Department of Food and Agriculture has still yet to release their final ruling on the law's requirement after their discernment period ended in mid-December. Moving on now to our international news. After years of a negotiation, the country of India has accepted that the veterinary export certificate that was originally proposed by the Department of Agriculture, and they are now lifting their ban on all U.S. pork being imported into the country. Speaking of trade-related issues, recently a dispute panel confirmed that Canada did indeed breach their trade agreement under USMCA, since they reserved most of their tariff rate quotas for Canadian processors, which essentially limits the U.S. products that are able to actually go into Canada. This was a huge win for a lot of U.S. dairy exporting associations and groups. In Brazil, pork exports jumped up to 11% last year, in the result to shipping over 1 million tons of pork to foreign markets, China being the number one destination. Moving on now to our national news. The big news of this year, of course, has been John Deere's unveiling of their autonomous tractor for sale to the public. John Deere even says that someday their technology will be able to be installed into existing tractors and other tiller machineries in the future. There's also word they're going to be looking into more spraying automation to follow up on the heels of this project. All right, that should catch you up for this week. This Ag News Update was brought to you by the Herd Book Ag Media, serving all your agribusiness writing, communication, and media needs. Find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or our company website, the-herdbook.com. Let me know you found out about us here in Moving Iron and get 20% off your first invoice.